Is our health system failing Māori men? There are some influential people who think so.
They're asking if Māori men are more likely to die from prostate cancer. Is this proof of institutional racism? Carmen Parahi investigates.
It's a typical New Zealand scene, a whānau walking along a beach. Sadly, also common in this country is one man on the beach has prostate cancer, now considered one of the most important problems facing New Zealand men.
I do have prostate cancer. It's serious. You go through that process of, why me and all of that sort of thing, the anger, the frustration, and then what do we do from here?
63-year-old Reawi Kaira has worked in the health system for the past 2 decades and is acutely aware of men's health issues, particularly for Māori men. He's willing to share his own personal story to raise awareness about prostate cancer.
What we do know that 80% of men die with it and 20% die of it. And there's over 600 a year die of prostate cancer, which is about the same as breast cancer. And yet, the publicity and or the education and the drive is not as extensive as breast cancer.
I'll get the milk, eh?
Rea's wife Maggie is a qualified nurse and pragmatic about her husband's prognosis, but she hasn't given up hope. They still have time together.
Yeah, we had a 40th wedding anniversary last year. I'd like to see at least another 10.
Rea remains positive by focusing on his work in whānau, especially 10-year-old grandson Tane, who's been in their care since he was 6 weeks old.
Kids are pretty resilient, eh? And I think they're very practical and objective really about things. And I think for kids, death is not a finality, They don't understand that when you die, it's forever and you're not coming back.
Tane's being brave about his poppy's cancer, but he became very upset when we talked openly about it during filming.
Yes, it is. We all feel it sometimes, don't we? Hey. Yeah.
His obvious pain upset all of us, but this is the cruel reality of living with cancer.
Just going through the process, I'm not as anxious as I was when you first arrive, but it seems to be going quite well.
Rea allowed us to film his first course of chemotherapy. He'll have 6 treatments because the cancer diagnosed in his prostate in 2009 has spread through the lymph nodes to his abdomen and chest. He's already had radiation twice.
I had no idea I had it. And a lot of men actually don't know they've got it until they actually get a blood test for a start and or something happens.
He's referring to the prostate-specific antigen test, or PSA, a blood screening for prostate cancer. Rea is advocating for a national prostate screening program for all New Zealand men, similar to breast and cervical screening for women.
I also understand and realise that PSA is really only an indicator. It's not the definitive diagnosis, but at least it gives some indication that there is, and particularly for those whose family have a history of it, because my father died of it, and so for my sons, it's somewhat of a priority to actually start testing.
Controversially, the Ministry of Health ruled out a nationwide prostate screening program.
Got a prostate cancer screening program in New Zealand. It's unorganised. And unorganised screening, by definition, does more harm than good.
Public health physician Dr Nina Scott is currently involved in a 3-year prostate cancer study in the Midlands region. Grim reading for New Zealand men.
At the moment, there's no quality standards around prostate cancer diagnosis or treatment.
Dr Scott was part of the task force set up to advise the Ministry of Health on prostate cancer care, recommendations which exclude national screening but include a shock admission. Māori men with prostate cancer are being treated differently.
If we know there are inequities and we don't try and fix them, then that's institutionalised racism, so that's inaction in the face of need.
She's scathing about the general care for Māori men with prostate cancer, experiences similar to Reawi Kaira.
Māori men still go to the doctor, it's just when they get there, the GP doesn't offer them screening. If you're Māori, you're 20% less likely to be referred to a specialist with a high PSA than non-Māori. If you're Māori and you end up at the specialist, you're 15% less likely to be biopsied. If you're Māori and you get biopsied, you are more likely to be diagnosed with cancer. Māori are 19% more likely to be diagnosed with cancer than non-Māori, but about 80% more likely to die from cancer than non-Māori. And between diagnosis and outcome is treatment. And there's a lot of inequity, there's a lot of unfair differences going along that treatment pathway. It sounds terrible, but at least we know this now, and we can react with evidence to those people going around blaming Māori men for some kind of cultural problem about not wanting to go to the doctor, which is actually just rubbish and it's racist.
She says Māori men don't have to die at a greater rate from prostate cancer if there's a political will to change the way they're being treated.
We need to start looking at inequities in cancer survival, and we need to have a goal of closing that gap, and we need to monitor closing that gap.
Why are our people dying of cancer more than others?
Associate Minister of Health Tariana Turia admits prostate cancer has never been a health priority until now. She's always tried to advocate for a national screening program, but has been dissuaded on advice there isn't enough evidence it works.
We should be encouraging our men to go and get screened. They should be totally and actively encouraged to do that. And that's why I think we need an education program. OK, if we're not going to have a program of actively screening, at a very minimum, we should have a very proactive education program that ensures that our men know that between the ages of 50 and 70 they should be getting screened.
It's not often a minister will get personal during an interview, but Tariana Turia did, describing the prostate problems of her husband George. He's had 2 biopsies and although he doesn't have cancer, George is being constantly monitored.
I ask my husband questions that probably would make another male feel uncomfortable, you know, to do with how is he mimicking, for instance. And I don't think that generally we talk like that to our men, between ourselves, but I think within a whānau setting you can. And it's a very important question. Is your mimi affected? Can you mimi directly? All of those things. And so as whānau members, we need to know so that we can ask our ones who we love dearly, is this an issue for you?
She agrees with Dr Nina Scott. The type of care Māori men with prostate cancer are receiving is evidence of institutional racism.
There is a bias. Now, we could call it racial bias if it makes people feel better, but the truth is this is about active institutional racism that is going on right across the sector, where there are certain people who, for whatever reason, decide that you don't get the same treatment as someone else, and I don't understand that.
The government will spend $4 million from this year's budget on improving prostate cancer care and on a publicity campaign.
I think that any family who loses a family member based on the poor treatment that they have received would be justifiably very angry. I think it's very sad that that anybody should be dying in this country, in Aotearoa, through inequitable treatment.
She has a message for Reawi Kaira, who she knows personally.
Well, I was very distressed to hear that Rea had prostate cancer, and kia piki te ora ki a ia. Kia kaha.
So while the government and medical experts try and fix the shambolic care for men with prostate cancer, Reawi Kaira will continue on his own journey of survival.
You actually have to get a lot of your affairs in order, but you also have to somewhat manage yourself into the future and remain positive, because you know, there's one heck of a goal there, and part of the goal, or the big goal, is how long can you survive this?
Mihi nui ki a koe rea me tō whānau hoki. In response to this story, MedSafe, the Medicines Safety Authority, confirmed on Friday they've approved the anti-prostate cancer drug Zytiga for distribution. Good news for Rea Wikaira, who says Zytiga could prolong his life, but it is expensive and he can't afford it yet. Funding agency Pharmac says it's aware men are hoping it'll be subsidised and is expecting to receive an application soon. If they do, it'll be assessed in August. We're hoping to have more on this and Pharmac's new Māori strategy next week.